Hello fellow tankers to What with Lautipus. In today's episode I'm gonna talk a little bit about type of tanks. You can recognize the type of tank by these signs over here you see at the top, these stripes, triangles, etc. So, and also by looking at your allies. So, sorry it's a little bit late and I'm confused, but I managed to do this. So, when you first start World of Tanks, you play with the light tanks. They are classified as light tanks because of their armor, etc. I mean their weight, and nothing special. But later on, already in tier 2, I think tier 3, you have already heavy tanks, which is this one my friend is driving, the KV-1S, the Russian tier 5. The sign for them is like this. Next you have medium tanks, which is what you see over there, the Panzer IV. You have tank destroyers with this sign, and you have also light tanks. You can see the sign here, and then you also have the SPGs, self-propelled guns. Yeah, sorry for the sign, I couldn't find a better one, and you know what? Nobody likes artillery, so that one I made is perfectly fine. Okay. Yeah, as I mentioned, you start with light tanks, and I mostly would recommend you, especially to new players, to play with heavy tanks, medium tanks and tank destroyers. I mean, you are fine playing light tanks in low tiers, it's not a big deal, but later on it's kind of frustrating because on you depends the outcome of the game. Now scouts can do a lot, but more about that in a future episode where I will be explaining game mechanics. So now let's take a look of the heavy tanks. Heavy tanks are not the fastest, as you can see, but some manages good speed. You see, for example, now we're almost going 50 kilometers per hour. Yeah. Are not the fastest. Yeah, they're not the fastest because they are heavy. They have armor. You see, you can see here, like this KV-1S has about 80 millimeters of armor at the front. It's even sloped, etc. They are the backbone of the army. You know. They also tend to have the biggest gun. I mean, in comparison to medium tanks, tank destroyers, etc. And they also do a lot of damage. You don't want to get shot by them. You just do it if you have to. Yeah, they don't have the best rate of fire because, you know, if you have a big alpha, then usually the reload time is also big. They are not that accurate, but I mean they are the backbone. They are the ones that push. They are the one that holds. I mean, everybody relies on heavy tanks. Okay, so now let's talk about medium tanks. On the left side, now we are just turning in circles to show traverse speed. Okay, medium tanks. They lack the armor, but they are agile. I mean, they are faster than heavy tanks, they can outflank, etc. But they are not as fast as scouts or light tanks in high tiers. They also have a lower caliber gun than the heavy tanks, but they have better rate of fire. Also, penetration is sometimes worse. But that's why you have to flank enemy tanks, you know, you go around them and you do the damage. Medium tanks can be very versatile. They can support, they can flank, they can delay enemies from advancing, they can even spot if it's necessary, you know, they're really universal and I like playing them. Okay, now let's move to the light tanks. They don't have armor, I mean that's why they're called light, you know. Their guns are also lower caliber, similar to medium tanks, but also lower. Their alpha damage is lower, but they have a really good rate of fire. But you know, when you're in a light tank in high tier, it's not about your damage, except if you're an outloader. But that's more complicated stuff. I'm just talking about the basics. So, yeah, low tiers you have mostly light tanks, as I said, because of their weight. of the game, spotting, etc. But I will, yeah, as I said. Now let's move to the tank destroyers. Um, uh, Heavy tanks, medium tanks, and light tanks, they all have turrets. When you come to tank destroyers, this is not the case. Usually the Americans and the British have turrets, but Germans, Russian, some British and French don't have turrets. But what's special, as the name tells you, tank destroyers, they're therefore destroying tanks. And this is shown by the fact that they have very powerful guns. The caliber is similar to the heavy tanks. Some have even lower caliber, like medium tank guns, but they tend to have better alpha damage, better rate of fire also, and most important, they are more accurate and they have the biggest penetration out of all type of tanks. Yeah, I mentioned that. Tank destroyer usually camp. This is not the best way to do it. Yeah, here we're having a race. This is not the best thing to do, but you know, sometimes it works. It's an arguable tactic. Now let's slow down, because if no, I will run out of time.
One of our tracks is damaged.
Yeah, they're camp usually. This is not good, or it is good. Tank destroyers are really good at defending, supporting by firing, you know, suppressing the enemies. And they usually do this when they are not spotted. And not being spotted is the best kind of armor you can have, you know, the best protection, because if the enemy doesn't see you, then they can shoot at you. Except in few cases when RNG makes everything happen. But it's really more to the luck than to the judgment of the enemy player. Okay, and as I mentioned, armor, tank destroyers are really versatile. I mean, you have tank destroyers that have no armor, like the German glass cannons, you know, for the Waffenträger line. You can pen them with high explosive, and I also like to do this. For example, in tier 8 you see a Borsig, you just load the high explosive because he has no armor at the turret. But on the other hand, you have some monsters like the T-95 or the Doom Turtle, which managed in Malinovka to go in the middle of the field and spot, and he didn't die. If you're interested, I can send you the replay, I mean the link of it, which featured jingles, if I'm not mistaken. Okay, yes, tank destroyers are really versatile. I mean versatile in armor, I mean the armor they have, the guns they have. You will see a lot of them. Yeah. And last but not least, if you remember my good sign, are the self-propelled guns. They have a very big reload time, and this is because they have the biggest caliber of all. You know, I mean, actually they don't have cannons. They are firing howitzers. You know, they are artillery, and also the ammunition they are firing is important. If you're lucky and the artillery is using armor piercing or high or hit ammunition that do damage only if penetrates, you are fine if you bounce. But if you don't bounce and they pen, you are dead. But usually artillery fires high explosive, which do splash damage. You also have some other tanks that can use high explosive. I mean tanks that have howitzers, like the KV-2, the King of Derp. Then you also have the OI, the tier 6 Japanese, the fake KV-2, as I like to call it, which I don't like, but I don't own it, so what I say, it's not it's not legit, it's not, I don't have arguments to prove it, yeah, so. And also another derp that you will mostly likely to see, especially in low tiers, is the 105mm from the Germans, usually used on the Hetzer, the Stuck 3, the Panzer 4. Some people even use it on the Tiger 1 and the VK, the predecessor tier 6 medium heavy tank. That's insane. But you know, at least that SPG, at least that howitzer has the better reload time of any other. I mean, it has even the a very good reload time, not reload, sorry, also reload, the better aiming time compared to normal guns, you know, it's about 1.7 or 1.9 seconds, which is nothing for a howitzer. Yeah. What else? Yeah, artillery likes to camp the backwards. Also, they see if you're playing an artillery. Just a recommendation: press left shift, so you have you see the ground from the down. So you're using the right aiming system, because other tanks you just scroll. You use the right one. In artillery, you have to press left shift. Otherwise, you are in the tank destroyer mode, as people used to call it, but it's not really effective, except for self-defense maybe, and if you're not a good player, it's really more to luck than judgment. And what else can I say? So this is it for this video. There will be a Christmas special, and I hope you enjoyed, and see you next time, guys. Stay tuned. Lautipus.